Hello and welcome once again to Intro to Computer Games and Simulations here at Lorain County Community College. I am Mike Substelny, your instructor this semester, and this time we are in our third week of our adventure together in computer games. This week we will not be in the game design workshop book. We will do both the lab and the lecture from the Game Maker's Apprentice. And the topic we're going to be covering this week is, as soon as the slide will change, all right, what makes a good game? Today we're going to be talking about fun. Last week, if you will recall, some key terms we learned were the games involve players and objectives and rules and procedures. That was very important. Expect to see that on quizzes and tests. And today's topic is all about fun. All in the Game Maker's Apprentice. This will be chapter 5 of this book that we'll talk about today. They've got one really good chapter that makes some points about fun. All right, let's talk about a game you made, Evil Clutches. The first thing you did, the very first week of class, was to make this game. And the book presents you with a version of the game called Evil Squares. If we could go full screen on the computer screen for a minute, please, control room. And I'm going to play a video of Evil Squares. You'll notice you've got a circle for the dragon. You've got a red square for the boss. You've got blue squares for the demons and little tiny gray squares for the babies. Yet it still works. You can still get a high score. And it plays as a game. If we could go back to the regular camera view now, please. And talk about what we just saw in Evil Squares. It's got these crude graphics of nothing but squares and circles with kind of dull coloring. There's not really any artwork or painting done on them. The sound effects, I'm not sure if they were able to hear those on TV, but it just bleeps and bloops. It's all you get. And there's no music whatsoever playing in Evil Squares. And yet, Evil Squares is still a fun and playable game. And let's think about why that is. It's because, in terms that the game industry uses, Evil Squares has what we call good game mechanics. And your book presents a definition of that, the basic rules and interactions that make a game fun to play. Let's see if I can scoot that aside. It doesn't want to go. Come on. The basic rules and interactions that make a game fun to play. Those are the game mechanics. And we've got good game mechanics in Evil Squares. It gives a good interactive challenge offered to the player. It has goals and it has rewards. It has much more interactivity, more goals, more rewards than a toy, a book, or a film. You get rewarded for your performance. You get points, you get penalized and killed depending on your actions. Even more may be possible, though, as your book points out. We're about to go full screen, please, again on the computer. One more time. This is a game that your book offers, Evil New 5.exe, where you get to, at the beginning of the game, choose your character. You could be the mama dragon or you could be the daddy dragon. The daddy dragon is the blue one, shooting fireballs. You'll notice you rescue up to 25 babies and you will get a reward. You have power-ups like that invincibility shield, and you get a count going. There's the power-up of the number of babies you've rescued. You get a score kept still of the demons that you've managed to slay. And by adding the power-ups, which are a sub-goal, while adding the rewards of rescuing those 22 babies, and let's rescue that 22nd baby. There we go. Congratulations, you rescued 22 hatchlings and got bonus points, and you get this funny little animation where the hatchlings snort steam on the butt of the boss. Okay, if we could go back to the camera, please. evilnew.exe, and all the resources are on your disk if you want to make that game. Added some goals, sub-goals, and rewards that made the game even more fun. Goals are a powerful way to add challenge to your game. And I'm going to ask you to try to do that in your future games. And you can see this on your CD. The new 2, 3, 4, and 5 different versions of Evil Clutches are offered with your book, or with the downloadable files that we should have a link to in the class. All right, and rescuing, well, that was 22 babies in that one. Rescuing 50 babies in the one version is an important goal. And if rescuing 50 babies is a goal, then rescuing 1 baby is a sub-goal on the way to that goal. And sub-goals are an easy way to engage the player. Also, slaying 1 demon is a sub-goal in that game. Dodging 1 demon that might kill you is a sub-goal in that game. Achieving the invincibility shield would be a sub-goal in that game. So each baby rescued is a sub-goal, and each demon killed is a sub-goal in that game. So remember that when you're doing your homework and taking your tests. There are sub-goals in pretty much any game. Goals, sub-goals, and rewards. So rewards help maintain interest. When you give the player something for good performance, the player will maintain their interest. And so you get some points for rescuing every baby. But you get a lot more points when you rescue 22, 28, 50 babies, whatever it is you set as the longer-term goal. Let's talk about the psychology of sub-goals. Here we are looking at, I believe it's Bejeweled Blitz, and at the end of the game, they want you to see that there were opportunities on the board right as time ran out. They want you to think, I was so close to achieving whatever the next goal is. I'm going to play again. And to explore this further, let's have a look at that game I don't like one more time. We're going to look at that Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring game based on the book that was for the PS2. Oh, that's the EA, not the EA version. It's the Vivendi game based on the book. Okay, in this game, the player gets to become Frodo, the Hobbit. And Frodo starts the game running around the Shire. It's a little dark in that picture. I should brighten that up. All right, he helps other hobbits with their everyday lives, worrying about the wolves in the Shire and things like that that are going on. Frodo has this thing in this game called a purity meter up in the top. And as he runs around doing good deeds and bad deeds, that gets affected. Good deeds recharge that purity meter. And good deeds can be challenging sub-goals. He does a bunch of them, like I don't know, getting a stick off of a windmill and things like that. Helping out the players. In fact, they are challenging to the player. But these good deeds that Frodo does are not dangerous to Frodo. They don't offer any risk to you as the player. Even Evil Squares offers more risk than the early parts of the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring by Vivendi. This Fellowship game, in fact, was very popular with Tolkien fans. If you wanted to immerse yourself in being a hobbit, living in the Shire, interacting with the other hobbits, this was the game for you. And the game, it's an action game. There's great evil out there in the world, and there's difficult tasks to be done. But even though it's an action game fans panned it. Now let's compare Fellowship of the Ring to a slightly more popular game. A couple years ago, it won the, I think, Ultimate Best Game in the Universe, whatever that award was from Spike TV. Nico Bellic, the protagonist of that game, whose identity you assume, he also has a purity meter. This This guy has a purity meter. Believe it or not. There's the purity meter. Those stars in the upper right corner. In Grand Theft Auto 4, it's called the wanted level indicator. And the more bad stuff you do, the more your wanted level goes up, and the more likely you are to run into overwhelming police forces. And so the wanted level meter and the purity level meter do pretty much the same thing. If the level gets too high in the case of wanted level, or the purity gets too low in the case of Frodo, then the game will very quickly end. You will get totally overwhelmed by antagonists, and that's it for you. Despite the similarities, these games will give you very, very different experiences. So let's think about how they differ. The difference is, from the very first scene of the game, Nico can face danger as he's running around doing his nefarious things. Frodo and Nico, they both challenge the player, but running around his little hometown with his friendly little hobbits, Frodo doesn't start out in any danger. He's just got a bunch of puzzles to solve. And it takes a really long time to solve all those goodness puzzles to charge up your purity meter to begin your adventure. Nico, however, he could die at any moment. You are facing risk within the first couple of minutes of Grand Theft Auto 4. And the whole time you are playing, you can face lots and lots of risk. That's what makes it, that's one of the things that makes it fun. Let's talk about conflict and danger. In the Shire, Frodo's conflict comes from petty little squabbles between the hobbits. Nico's conflict is with him, and it's dangerous, and it's not petty. He's a brawler. He's in fights. He's committing crimes. So we talked before about these things, resources, boundaries, outcomes, challenge, which are all engaging. But I'm telling you now, risk is more engaging than all of those. Add risk to the gameplay, and you will have an excellent, engaging game. Let's talk about risk and evil clutches. If you accidentally shoot a baby, it costs you points. That's a risk. Touching a demon with your dragon's body ends the game. That's it, you're dead. And those are both punishments. When you're risking something, you're risking being punished by the game. Losing points, ending the game. Types of punishments. Losing some kind of resource is a type of punishment. We talked about resources last time. Your book, Game Maker's Apprentice, brings up this really interesting topic that was never mentioned in Game Design Workshop of unfair punishment. And almost all of you built evil clutches with an unfair punishment in it. But some of you took the unfair punishment out. As designed, it's got an unfair punishment. Because players expect to get rewards when they do what they're supposed to do in the game. Achievements. And they expect to get punished for mistakes. Evil Clutches, however, has this rule that the fireball touches a demon, destroys the demon, you get points. But this fireball doesn't stop. It touches the next demon, destroys the next demon, you get points. But there's a baby in the way. It's also going to hit the baby because it doesn't stop until it gets to the end of the room. So you're going to lose that baby. You're going to get punished for launching that fireball, even though slaying these demons is what you're supposed to do in that game. Some of you made a version of Evil Clutches where the fireball is destroyed when the demon is destroyed. And that takes out the unfair punishment. Most games don't have unfair punishment. They remove it just like some of you did. And so conflict is good, but players feel that punishment should have justice. If I get punished, it's because I didn't perform as well as I should. I made a mistake. All right, another topic your book brings up is control overload. While players enjoy the power to make decisions in a game, and in fact it's totally essential, if you give them too many decisions too quickly, they will be overloaded, and a lot of the fun, the pleasure, will be removed from the game. And this looks like a control overload screen because this is the engineering screen in Artemis Spaceship Bridge Simulator, but actually it's a pretty well-designed screen. You don't have to do too many things all at the same time, although a really fanatical engineer might. According to your book, most players can remember between 5 and 9 things at the same time to keep track of that they need to do. And that's on Game Maker's Apprentice, page 93. So, what that tells us is more than 5 controls that the player has to think about at the same time might be control overload. It might start taking away from the player's pleasure. Now, if you need a game with more than 5 controls or more than 9 controls, context-sensitive controls can help. It's a good point in your book. Let's talk about what that means using an example. Galactic Mail. You've made this game, or are about to turn it in if you haven't already. So, when you have a flying rocket, it has these procedures that if you press the left or right arrow keys, the rocket will turn left and right. So the controls, left and right arrow keys, turn slowly left and slowly right as you're flying through the galaxy. But when the rocket is landed, things change. The context is different. When the rocket is landed, it's now on one of the moons. It has the same procedures. Press the left arrow key, press the right arrow key. But in the new context, the new control effects are you turn quickly left and right while landed, the way that game is designed. And in fact, there's another procedure that you get when you're landed. By pressing the space bar, the rocket launches. That procedure and control effect do not exist for the flying rocket. Although some of you are making weapons, I know, on that space bar for the flying rocket. You just have to make the games more violent than they start out. All right, so Galactic Mail is a spaceship game. And there are lots of spaceship games out there. They're very popular. There are no weapons in this spaceship game, at least as the book designed it. There's no evil character to defeat in this game. There's just a bunch of rocks flying through space in every direction. And those rocks offer plenty of danger. I'd like from the students here in the classroom a show of hands. Do you think there is risk in Galactic Mail? I see just about all the hands are going up. Yes, you're risking getting hit by a rock or flying into one of those asteroids. That is risk. Is there conflict in Galactic Mail? What do you think? Show of hands. Is there any conflict going on here? Well, why would you say it's not conflict between you and the asteroids? Because the asteroids aren't artificially intelligent thinking about attacking you? Well, the demons aren't intelligent in evil clutches. The demons are just random number generators bouncing around. We would say there is conflict in this game between you and the asteroids or whatever object can defeat you. You are in conflict. The player is in conflict with whatever can defeat the player. Okay, I hope that was clear. We are done for this week. Next time, we're going to introduce formal elements and dramatic elements. We start into the really fun and exciting part of this class. So until next time, this is Mike Substelny for Intro to Computer Games and Simulations here at Lorain County Community College.